Hello and welcome to WarrenThornton.com. There we go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to WarrenThornton.com. Well, there's only going to be one place to start, and of course, it is the events that have happened in Minneapolis today, or over the last 24 hours. And we have to ask the question, ice cold murder. Is this a guy who's acted stupidly, or is it a guy who's acted in self-defense and suddenly come out of nowhere and tried his very best to deal with a very difficult situation of a woman who has tried to end his life? So let's get into some of this straight away. And the very, very first place we're going to start is with basically a non-starter. And we're going to have a go at X here. Very much going to have a go at X. Because what they have tried to do is quite ridiculous. They've tried to put the age restriction on for anybody, and that includes people like myself. As you can see at the top there, due to local laws, we are temporarily restricting access to this content until X estimates your age. Well, I'm 63. If X can't estimate my age and so forth. But what they're trying to do, Elon Musk and X are trying to stop you from seeing the full video of what happened. And of course, they have taken that off tried to restrict the number of people that are able to see it. So what we're going to do, of course, where they tried to do that, we've managed to go somewhere else to get it, because of course we think it's a good idea.
You! Shame! 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 Dude, what's happening to her? What happened? Dude. Okay. Dude, you shot her. I'm trying to help. No, no. You fucking shot someone in the fucking face. You shot someone in the fucking face. Do you have a conscience? Do you have a conscience? Don't let the murderer leave! Don't let the murderer leave! You guys are the fucking criminals. You don't get to tell us what to do. Fucking criminals. Don't let him leave. Don't let him leave.
Pussy motherfuckers, man.
No, get the fuck out of our neighborhood.
So there we are. There is a couple more minutes of that, of course. But the problem what we're seeing here, of course, is she was very, very close to where she lived. And of course, people are going, "Oh, what are you doing in our neighbourhood?" There is actually a bit of the video later on that says it's our neighbour. So what they've done is they've followed this woman all the way. Louis Bastos.
The guy said to the woman, "Get out of the effing car." That, number one, is not a person who's a police officer. You don't insult people. Number one. Number two, they ran away. Okay, the people didn't stop the car, but the guy ran away. Nobody went to hospital from ICE. They all got in a car and left. Nobody went to hospital. My opinion.
Yeah,
Bad. That's manslaughter.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Eric Jones.
Yes, sir. I've seen many news reports and everything claiming that she was from out of state and everything else. You say she lived down the street?
Well, there is a video that says where she's turning around saying, "You shot my neighbour." So, you know, there's a lot of nonsense going on about that. So one of those will have to have that confirmed. But there is a video there saying, "What have you done? You just shot my neighbour." So that is one of the videos, and we'll get to that in a short while. Sean Murphy and then Lee Williams.
Well, on the face of it, I think people probably thought it was the two. It was the two guys who actually approached her car that were involved in the shooting. In fact, they weren't involved in the shooting. No. As she drove off, and she wasn't driving off or at the guy that shot her. She was driving past him.
Yeah.
And he just opened fire on her for no apparent reason. She hadn't hit anybody. She hadn't endangered the two guys who had approached the car. And she certainly wasn't endangering him from the look of it, because she wasn't aiming the car at him. She was driving off, and he was quite a few feet from her. Or he wasn't exactly right by the car. He just opened fire through the window at her, and that was it. So he wasn't endangered at all either. So I don't know where they come up with, his life was in danger. It certainly didn't look that way.
Well, here we can see it again, and we're just going to stop it at various points here.
There's the two guys who get out of that car.
Done for murder.
Yeah, hang on 2 seconds.
They haven't drawn their weapons.
Now she's reversing there to try and get a line to drive away. Okay, very, very simply, you can see the wheels are turned away from the officer. She's not spinning round or aiming at anybody there. She's trying to get away. Now, as she drives away there, she is turning her wheels to the right to get away. She's not driving at the officer. As you can see, the wheels are around to the right. And at that point, he opens fire. So let's just have a look at that again. Here, as she goes to drive, he pulls out his weapon there. His weapon is now drawn, and he shoots her through the front of the windshield. And then he shoots her through the side window and aims another round at her. Have a look again.
Yeah, he shot her through the windscreen and then through the side window.
Now, what is the point and what is the reasoning for a second shot? Lee Williams, you wanted to ask?
The one question I was going to ask, will this gentleman get done for murder? Because there's no reason to have shot that woman for just apparently doing nothing. She wasn't doing nothing wrong.
Well, apparently they are saying she was an agitator, that she'd been at this, she'd been doing this all day long. She'd been upsetting all the ICE agents and everything else. My thing would be to turn around and say, Can you tell me exactly what she has done wrong? So let's have a listen to what the rest of the people were saying about this, because this is quite incredible. Let's have a look.
Say that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations. Our officer followed his training, did exactly what he's been taught to do in that situation, and took actions to defend himself and defend his
Right. I'm going to stop it right there, because his actions for his training. Okay. So let's, from the manual, this is why we don't like Barbie too much here. Here we go on the use of force. Firearms may not be discharged solely to disable moving vehicles. This is from the US DOJ policy on use of force. Specifically, firearms may not be discharged at a moving vehicle unless a person in the vehicle is threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle. Okay, it's quite clear here. Person in the vehicle threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle. Or two, the vehicle is operated in a manner that threatens to cause death or serious physical injury. As she was just trying to drive away, there was no power in there. It's not like she was doing 60 or 70 miles an hour. And she clearly was in the phase of turning the wheels to try and avoid and make a getaway. Her whole modus operandi, from what I can see there, is an effort to try and get away rather than, and no other objectively reasonable means of defense appear to exist, which includes moving out of the path of the vehicle. Also, placing oneself in the path of a moving vehicle constitutes officer-created jeopardy and undermines any claim that deadly force was necessary.
Well, that would certainly seem to be the case, wouldn't it?
Certainly would. Mark Onza.
Did the officer, not the one who shot her, were he leaning into the vehicle, or did he have his hands on the vehicle as she set off?
He actually didn't have his hands on it at all. The other officer had his hand on the door handle, but the one who took the shots at no times came into contact with the vehicle, and they're saying that the vehicle came into contact with him.
Yeah, well.
And let's
go back.
Say,
it could be a weapon though, Warren. Nobody wants to get him. There's no saying she weren't going to slam it in reverse and take him out. You know.
Okay. And as I say, this show is one of the ones where you're allowed to have a different opinion. Let's have a little look at everything that they've got to say.
Say that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations. Our officer followed his training, did exactly what he's been taught to do in that situation, and took actions to defend himself and defend his fellow law enforcement officers.
Secretary, can you expand too on the agent's injuries? The president said that he's lucky to be alive.
The officer was hit by the vehicle. She hit him. He went to the hospital. A doctor did treat him. He has been released, but he's going to spend some time with his family.
There we are. So he went to the hospital with his injuries. Lee Williams.
Did he actually go away in a car, if I remember?
Of course he did, yeah.
Yeah. So he wasn't really injured to the degree he had to call an ambulance, for one. And secondly, it's compulsive lie through all these people saying it was, well, what she done as a criminality was nothing, I don't believe. I believe she wasn't a criminal.
So let's have a little listen to something else Cowgirl had to say.
You asked about a shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers and our law enforcement are under every single day. These vehicle rammings are domestic acts of terrorism. We're working with the Department of Justice to prosecute them as such. We will continue to protect our ICE officers
by lying for them. And I'm going to get into the other side of this as well, so don't worry. If you are one of those people who thinks, "Oh no, this is," but we're gonna have a little talk on, shall we say, the nonsense that's come out from this, because there is all sorts of absolute nonsense coming out from both sides of the argument here, and it is quite staggering, and of course, it should get you well and truly annoyed here. Let's have a little look then. This is from Donald Trump. I have just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then willfully, violently, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot her in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, it is hard to believe he is alive, but he's now recovering in the hospital. The situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They're just trying to do the job of making America safe. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers from radical left movement, violence, and hate. So that is Donald Trump's take on this. He was later challenged on his take, and he was challenged whilst he was giving an interview to the New York Times. And of course, he was showing the video, which clearly showed that wasn't the case, and turned around and said, "Well, that's not what I see as far as I'm concerned." And of course, he refused and in fact doubled down on it, as have J.D. Vance and many others. Now, let's get into a couple of other things that are really, really important here. Let me say this right from the word go. If you weren't there, if you were not taking part in a protest, getting in the way of these officers and whatever, you would not have ended up getting shot. Okay? It's very, very simple. You should not have been there. You should not be instructed in any way getting in the way of ICE officers carrying out their legal and lawful duty. Having said that, people may well think, having viewed the evidence, that this guy lost the plot. And of course, there are many people that are doing that at the moment. There is stuff like this coming out. I stand with ICE. From the department, from Caroline Leavitt, really. And they are the government, or shall we say the administration, is doubling down on everything that they're saying took place. They are not backing off at all. Of course, the other side are turning around and saying murdered by ICE. And of course, she was a woman with, how can I put it? She's with I believe, a transgender partner. She's a lesbian, well lefty, into all sorts of stuff, with a 6-year-old child. And of course, she's being described as a domestic terrorist. And of course, people are now, how can I put this, going well over the top in all of this. Now, this is a damning picture here, because that shows the officer firing into the car a second time from point blank range. If he can't see that he's hit her in the face when he shot his first shot from front on. Now, and of course, that is going to probably be the most damning thing. It's quite obvious that he didn't follow his training. We've read you out the training manual and what the training manual says about this. And of course, people are going to start doubling down on all of this when it comes to this nonsense. It is, of course, you have to start looking at everything that they're saying and everything everybody else is saying, because, of course, when we have a little look at this, this is how the car ended up. And, of course, there is no question at all, that one of the rounds you can quite clearly see and we'll put up a picture for you that shows this. You can clearly see went straight through the window, and another round that has been shot not only hit her, but another round that was shot has also caused, shall we say, damage to the wing mirror as well when it deflected off. So in all, there were 3 shots fired, and as you can see there, quite clearly, the second one was or certainly the first one would have harmed her, but the second one was clearly an execution shot. And of course, the fact that they drove away very, very quickly after is going to be of some concern. Now, the woman who's died, her name is Renee Good. And of course, she was a known activist. So some are saying. Some are saying she just happened to be there. Now, what we are hearing from people who were also there is that she actually lived in that neighborhood. And of course, that puts a totally different slant on what everybody is talking about now. And of course, the other side are very, very quick to put forward the fact that she only lived a few blocks from where George Floyd, Fentanyl Floyd, was arrested and, of course, subsequently died while in the custody of police officers, having swallowed enough fentanyl to kill a small horse. So let's be absolutely clear here that I am not in any way, shape or form saying that this is linked or in any way anywhere near the same scenario. We will be showing later on after you leave for the subscribers the whole hour of the body camera that includes George Floyd in the ambulance trying to be revived afterwards, includes his arrest, includes them being called to the scene. So the body cam footage that wasn't played in the court for the jury when Derek Chauvin was convicted. But we will be playing the whole hour of that so you can see it right from the word go. Now, there are many people coming out in defense of this ICE officer. Here's one of them.
Still not convinced? Look at this angle.
So we can look at the car tyres. You can see them spinning on the ice. She's definitely turning the tyres away from the officer.
She tried to run him over with her car. He had a split-second decision to make. He did not know if she, within a tenth of a second, less than, went like this with the wheel, he would have been dead. So, yeah, if you're going to run an ICE officer over with your car, there will be.
So that is her take on things. And of course, people may or may disagree with it. There is no doubt whatsoever that the nonsense that has gone on here has got everybody in a lather. There are all sorts of things now happening on the streets. We'll have a little look at some of this for you. We'll try and get some of this video up for you here. You can quite clearly see, if you look out at a window, here's another thing here. There is a car being waved past you. Now, she clearly wanted to turn the other way and drive off the other way. And of course, she wasn't allowed to do so or wasn't permitted to do so. But you can see her waving a car past. So she wasn't actively trying to stop any cars at that moment in time. You know, there's lots and lots of people who will turn around and say different. Mark Honza.
If there's any truth that she'd been agitating him all day, what say she's not been tormenting him What say she's not against these ICE people being in their area and she's a raving lefty? You know,
I mean,
they do bring it on themselves, Warren. You know what the actions are like.
Yeah, let's put it this way. It is quite, you know, all sorts of things where you get people going on about this, that, and the other, and saying, oh, they're agitators and everything. Let's be absolutely clear. She shouldn't have been there, and she shouldn't have been protesting about officers going about their daily work. Is that a basis for shooting and killing someone? You have to ask whether or not that is the case. So very, very simply, and I understand. Eric Jones?
Yeah, the people saying that so you know that what about this officer being well, let me ask another question. The hell with that. I mean, this guy, these people had no chance to do anything but shoot her. I mean, I don't care what she's been agitating for shit, and you guys know damn well that our government calls people agitators and will call people whatever and make up whatever story like they did Maduro. So please don't give me that crap because they'll make up anything they want to fit the narrative.
Yeah. Okay. That is, of course, we see the video there. You can quite clearly see he is not injured in any way, shape, or form. John Murphy.
I was just about to say that. You can see that he's walking with speed. He's not limping. He hasn't. In fact, I doubt if the car even touched him, to be honest.
Well, let's have a closer look, shall we?
He's just walking away.
One more angle on it. That's all right. You're allowed to be peed off. You can quite clearly see it's hardly brushed him, if anything. And of course, we have his training. He's not supposed to get in the way. He's supposed to move out of the way. He's not supposed to put himself in that position. And there's no reason for him to be able for doing that. And of course, we're going to get lots and lots of that. But there are other things that are, shall we say, underlying in this. Now we've got massive protests everywhere. Have a look at this.
People united will never be defeated. People united.
So there are protests now starting everywhere because of this. Rather than coming out and sort of going, right, we put the officer to one side for the time being. We're going to see what happens. We're going to try and look at this first of all before we make any judgment. Right now, the officer is suspended. And what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at this. Well, that was a nice protest. This is what happened at the scene after the shooting.
Can I go check a pulse?
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician!
Hey, listen, we understand. We got EMS coming, and I get it. Just give us a second. We have medics on scene. We have our own medics.
Where are they? Where are they? How can I relax? You just killed my fucking neighbor! You caught butter in the fucking face!
So there we go. That's her neighbor. It's quite clear. You killed my neighbor and wouldn't let that physician attend the woman, even though it is now been shown that he is a physician. They wouldn't let that physician attend the woman. We have our own, and of course, there's no chance that she was going to be saved by the time that they got there. So there is more to this, and we're going to show you an ice raid as well, just for the fun of it. And you have to ask, have they gone OTT ICE in their behavior?
Now they're sitting here raiding the motherfucking house. Hey, you ain't supposed to smack him like that. The fuck is wrong with you? Hell no, man. I'm on my property. I ain't gotta listen to you. Hey, you ain't got a search warrant. You can't come over here, man. Hey, look, I got you all on camera right now. I'm on my private property. Hold on, man. You're under arrest. For what? You're answering with
there we go. So, of course, if they're there to arrest people, that's absolutely fine. But when they start doing things like that, you have to ask, have they been allowed or have they got too much power? And, of course, everyone and his wife are having a word about it.
The video you're about to watch is disturbing, but we cannot look away.
No! No! Shame! Shame!
Now, I don't know about anybody else, but my take on this is the guy has clearly gone OTT here. And his training or whatever training he's supposed to have had has not done any good here whatsoever. But we have to say, there is a video. Try going out and back in again, Alexander. It may be sometimes that your feed is not too good, and therefore that's the reason you can't see the video, buddy. So the problem that we have here, of course, is it's never black and white. It really isn't. Because you always have people who would turn around and go, well, what about so-and-so? What about so-and-so? And all the rest of it. And of course, this happens. This does happen. And of course, when you look at this, here's the protest. We're going to show you exactly what this has kicked off now, with the failure of anybody to do anything about it.
Oh my God! Drag him back! Go back to the sidewalk! Go back! Let's get back to the sidewalk. Hold on, I'll help you up. I'll help you up. Back up.
That makes you feel good.
Let's go. Get off the sidewalk. Let's go, kid boy. Let's go. Get out of it. Let's go. Let's go. Stop pushing us. Stop pushing us. Let's go. We got you. We got you. We got you. Get up. We're going to get sprayed. Get up. We're going to get sprayed.
Please get back to the sidewalk. We want everybody to stay safe. Please get back to the sidewalk.
Go. Hurry up.
So there we are. In the case of this gentleman who's obviously gone a little bit, shall we say, OTT. First of all, I've got no sympathy for people who get harmed by the fact that they're turning up and trying to stop police officers or ICE officers or whatever doing their or going about their lawful duty, which is to take away, illegal immigrants or whatever. Okay. That having been said, because then what you do, but by the actions of overreacting, and I would call that an overreaction, we have shown you that their training tells them not to be in that position and act in the way that guy did. So it's clearly an overreaction. And I understand how that works, but your training should get you past that flashpoint of anger where you decide you're going to shoot a 37-year-old lesbian. For trying to drive a car away and it almost hits you or could have hit you or whatever. And of course, there is that momentary flash of anger, but your training should stop you from actually undergoing that sort of thing. Okay. And of course, we're now going to get what we now have is the failure to deal or shall we say, the evidence of George Floyd, which was suppressed and not shown, which could have calmed down the riots a heck of a lot by the Democrat administration, of course, wasn't shown. And here we have the actual stuff being shown, but literally everybody in the State Department turning around and saying, oh, no, there's nothing wrong there. She was clearly trying to kill him. That clearly isn't the case for me. It may be the case for you. But of course, as I say, it's not a great look, and it's only going to get worse because there's going to be lots and lots of riots now, and that plays into the hands of the loony lefties who've been sort of winding this situation up, where we knew it was going to happen sooner or later. Anybody who didn't think that this situation was going to come to a head and somebody was going to get killed doing all these stupid things that they're doing, of course, is rather crazy. Now, you will get people going, oh, yeah, but what about Ashley Babbitt? You know, there are layers to this. Ashley Babbitt, of course, who was unarmed and got killed. There are people who have been in the middle of demonstrations or riots and have driven through a crowd of people. That can happen, and in fact has happened on quite a few occasions. So it's not, shall we say, clear cut. And I think every single one of these has to be treated as an individual case. If you don't treat it like an individual case, then of course you can get major problems. Take, for instance, this. How would you react if you were faced with this situation going about your daily business? Let's have a look. Here we are. Let's just rewind.
Motherfuckers, where you going now? He not going nowhere now. He not going nowhere now. Hold up, hold up. Hold up. Hold up. He not going nowhere now. He not going nowhere now.
No worry,
Hey, watch out!
Now, I would ask people here, was he justified in using his vehicle to try and get the hell away? I'd turn around and say yes. If somebody's coming at you like that, I would be, should we say, very, very worried that somebody was going to do me some harm. So hopefully, and as I say, we will show the George Floyd video in its full entirety. And it will be a video that I would say 90% of you have never seen. Lee Williams.
I was going to ask, is that London or Palestine? Because obviously it's the same everywhere. We know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in America, obviously.
If you're in the middle of a protest and somebody does that, do you then suddenly put your foot down and drive out of there? So it's not, as I say, cut and dried. It really isn't. And there are many people out there that are going to condemn him. And there's many people that will use this now, shall we say, to go completely stupid and do all sorts of crazy things. There's no doubt that the picture of the side shot, the second shot, is absolutely damning. There's no question there. And for me, he's overreacted. He should be suspended. And of course, now, as I say, with everybody just, how can I put this? Giving a defense that doesn't hold up to scrutiny is going to cause a real problem. And of course, this is going to make ICE's, shall we say, everything that ICE wants to do, very, very difficult from here on in. Because, of course, many people are going to get very upset about this. We're going to get all the things with George Floyd. The Democrats are going to use it to do all sorts of crazy things. And, of course, we're going to get, this is one of the things that's come out and very, very simply is these are the sort of things you're going to get. Let's have a little look. We get this picture up for you. There's already wanted posters out for this federal agent. Of course, here we go. Last seen Minneapolis, MN, and of course the gold Chevy Tahoe plate that we all saw clearly in the video. Anonymous tips, please send to me and everything else. So they're going after this guy. There's no question here. Had they suspended him and said, look, it looks as though there may have been a situation where an officer has overreacted. If you tell the truth in this situation, you're going to be okay. But the fact, of course, that Derek Chauvin was probably hung out to dry is one of the factors why, of course, this is going to be a problem and they're not going to let it. So you may or may not have an idea one way or the other of what you think on this. And some of you will react one way, some will react the other way. Something that was very troubling and quite worrying, is the fact Kristi Noem, of course, is known as a wall slapper. She's very much along those lines. And there are other slightly, should we say, things that maybe need investigating on top of that. Here we go. The ICE, there we go. And there are many people that served in the IDF that are now working for ICE, top-ranking US Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE officials and agents are participating in training programs in Israel. Why? These exchanges are typically organized by private organizations such as the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, the American Jewish Committee, and the Jewish Institute for National Security Affairs, called JINSA, rather than being official, mandatory US government training. So one would ask, why are ICE being farmed out to learn their trade from Israel? And of course, just in case this is something even more weird, here we go. The Department of Homeland and Security date joined July 2008 in Israel, Tel Aviv. And there we go, user name changes off the Israel App Store. That's the US Department of Homeland and Security. What on earth is that doing being linked to Israel? Eric Jones.
Well, that certainly explains the shooting now, doesn't it?
It does seem quite crazy, doesn't it? And what you have to ask, my question would be, what sort of training are you getting? Do you get what I mean? Lee Williams.
I was going to ask, would it be irritable to actually ban having two passports? If you're an Israeli and you live in Israel, then you've got an Israel passport. Why have they got a German, a French, or European, American, UK passports, as well as their Israel passport? That's my one question.
It is quite staggering, isn't it? And I had no idea until somebody pointed it out to me that, of course, is going on, or that had gone on. I was sort of looking at it and going, why on earth would that be? Why on earth would they be farming the people out to Israel, the ICE people out to Israel to get their training? No. Answers on a postcard, please, because I found that quite troubling and quite disturbing, and I don't think that is something that should be happening. You may have a different view on that, but I'm looking at that and going, why on earth are they getting training from there? I don't get it. Let's move on then. I think we've covered enough of the topic on there. There is another topic that we do need to start covering, and several other topics that we need to start talking about. Let's have a little look at this, because this is, shall we say, quite entertaining and quite straightforward.
A ton of cocaine, pure cocaine worth hundreds of millions, is smuggled into the United States. Sound familiar? Not the way this ton of cocaine got here. According to what the former head of the Drug Enforcement Administration told Mike Wallace, this drug shipment got here courtesy of what he calls drug trafficking by the CIA in partnership with the Venezuelan National Guard. While rumors of CIA involvement in drug trafficking have circulated for years, no one in the U.S. government has ever before publicly charged the CIA with this kind of wrongdoing. And it's not the kind of accusation anyone in government would make without thinking long and hard.
Let me understand what you're saying. A ton of cocaine was smuggled into the United States of America by the Venezuelan National Guard?
Well,
in cooperation with the CIA?
That's exactly what appears to have happened.
Until last month, Judge Robert Bonner was the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA. And Judge Bonner explained to us that only the head of the DEA is authorized to approve the transportation of any illegal narcotics like cocaine into this country, even if the CIA is bringing it in.
Let me put it this way, Mike. If this has not been approved by DEA or an appropriate law enforcement authority in the United States, then it's illegal. It's called drug trafficking. It's called drug smuggling.
So what you're saying, in effect, is the CIA broke the law. Simple as that.
I don't think there's any other way you can rationalize around it, assuming, as I think we can, that there was some knowledge on the part of CIA, at least some participation in approving or condoning this to be done.
Judge Bonner says he came to that conclusion after a 2-year secret investigation conducted by the DEA's Office of Professional Responsibility in cooperation with the CIA's own Inspector General. And what reason did the CIA have for promoting this drug smuggling?
Well, the only rationale that's ever been offered is that this would lead to some valuable drug intelligence about the Colombian cartels.
Over half of the Colombian drug cartel's cocaine crosses the border with Venezuela on its way to the United States and Europe. Back in the 1980s, the CIA was mandated by then-President Reagan to develop intelligence on the Colombian drug cartels. And so the CIA, with Venezuela's Guardia Nacional, or National Guard, set up an undercover operation, a drug smuggling operation in Venezuela that could handle the transshipment of the Colombian cartel's cocaine on its way to market. The plan was to infiltrate the cartel, and it worked, for the CIA National Guard undercover operation quickly accumulated this cocaine, over 1.5 tons, that was smuggled from Colombia into Venezuela inside these trucks, and then was stored here at the CIA-financed Counter-Narcotics Intelligence Center in Caracas. The center's commander and the CIA's man in Venezuela was National Guard General Ramon Guillén Davila.
I tried to work together with them. I was always aware that they were not telling me everything they were doing.
Annabelle Grimm was a DEA agent with 18 years' experience when she was made agent in charge in Caracas. And she says that the CIA station chief, James Campbell, and this man, Mark McFarland, the CIA officer in charge at the center, told her that to keep the undercover smuggling operation credible, they had to keep the cartel happy. And the way to do that was simple: deliver their dope, untouched by U.S. law enforcement, to the cartel's distributors, their dope dealers in the United States.
The CIA and the Guardia Nacional wanted to let cocaine go on into the traffic without doing anything. They wanted to let it come up to the United States, no surveillance, no nothing.
In other words, you weren't going to stop them in Miami or Houston or wherever. These drugs were simply going to go to the United States and then go into the traffic and eventually reach the streets.
That's what they wanted to do, yes. And we had very, very lengthy discussions where I told them what the U.S. law was and the fact that we could not do this.
So here you got Jim Campbell, chief of station, who knows about this. Mark McFarland, CIA officer, knows about this, and are stimulating this business of sending what are uncontrolled deliveries of drugs, smuggling drugs into the United States, right?
Right.
Why in the world would they want to do that?
As they explained to me, that this would enable them to gain the traffickers' confidence, keep their informant cool, and it would result in future seizures of larger quantities of drugs. And also they hoped to, I guess, they thought they were going to get Pablo Escobar at the scene of the crime or something, which I found personally ludicrous.
But if Annabelle Grimm thought this was ludicrous, the CIA station chief James Campbell did not. He enlisted the assistance of CIA headquarters in Washington to get approval for the drug shipments. And his bosses at the CIA in Washington went over Annabelle Grimm's head directly to her bosses at DEA headquarters in Washington.
They made this proposal, and we said, no, no way, we will not permit this. It should not go forward. And then, apparently, it went forward.
Well, so there we are. And on top of that, of course, when we're talking about the war on drugs, have a listen to this.
What is the reality of the war on drugs? Is it what we're told?
I'll begin by asking you a question. Have you ever seen the Netflix series Narcos?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know how the good guys are the DEA agents, and just as they're going to go in and capture the cartel head, the CIA guy comes in and screws everything up. Yeah, that's real life. Because the CIA doesn't give a shit about drugs. The CIA gives a shit about running their arms and communism and counterterrorism and influence. They don't care about drugs. They laugh at those DEA guys. You know, the cocaine situation in the 80s with Nicaragua. We don't need to get into the details, but there's credible evidence that at the very, very least, the CIA decided to look the other way as that cocaine was sent to the United States to be made into crack to change the completely American society of the period.
There we are. So the CIA has a long history of involvement in drugs, and of course, we have to play this as well.
Esta mañana decía el señor embajador que Venezuela hay un narcoestado, un país narcotraficante, pero por lo más sagrado, este es el país de mayor consumo de drogas en el mundo, señor embajador. ¿Cómo llega esa droga? Es que ustedes no tienen drones, satélites, tecnología aduanera.
Of course, we've got the guy talking there, and we'll let you know. So it's 7 years since in 2018, he was Venezuela's foreign minister, and he dismantled the same narrative of drug trafficking that the US is using to continue to attack Venezuela. He asked the same question that everybody should be asking: where are the constraints in the United States so the drugs do not pass? The cartel, he is saying, and said then, is not inside Venezuela, actually inside America itself. So, of course, that is something that you sort of have to look at, wonder what's going on. Lee Williams.
I would say USA are famously guilty of the crime. Nothing to do with, let's say, what they would see as third world countries, as Colombia and Valencia. That's only in my opinion. But that's not to do with the people of America. That's to do with the corporation.
Yep. Well, let's have a listen to Senator, this senator, quite incredible. He thinks that the elections have been stolen in Venezuela and the drug cartels run it.
Do you describe this as regime change?
No. What we did is we took out an illegitimate president. He was never duly elected. So there can't be regime change if he should have never been put in place to begin with.
Was his vice president duly elected?
You know, I don't know how their elections happened. I don't know if they're on the same ticket or separate. I don't know how that works, but I know if we were interested in having a full regime change, if we were interested in taking over Venezuela, we would have left our...
A regime change, which is a cute word for saying overthrow their government. And the problem here is, of course, that he's saying it was a corrupt government or whatever, and we need regime change and everything else. And, of course, he has no idea when he's asked, how do the elections work in Venezuela? He has no idea. So he's talking out of his hat, and it is quite incredible. And, of course, let's have a little listen to some of these.
I directed our armed forces to protect the lives of American citizens in Panama.
President Milosevic will not make peace. We will limit his ability to make war.
We have no ambition in Iraq except to remove a threat.
The United States is acting with a broad coalition that is committed to enforcing United Nations Security Council resolution.
They took all of our oil from not that long ago, and we want it back.
There we are, the same playbook being used. And, of course, Jeffrey Sachs has had something to say on this. What he's had to say on this is well worth listening to. Have a listen to this.
Iran had a functioning democratic government in 1953, led by Prime Minister Mossadegh. Mossadegh's idea in 1953 was that the oil that was under the ground actually belonged to the Iranians, where the British knew that it belonged to the British. So when the Iranian Prime Minister, democratically elected, said, "This is our oil, it's under our ground," the British government knew that it had to overthrow him. And it connected with the U.S. government, and they made a secret operation to overthrow Mossadegh and to install the Shah of Iran and to make a police state under U.S. control. If you add up all such regime change operations by the United States between 1945 and 1989, at the end of the Cold War, 64 covert regime change operations by the United States, mostly CIA-led.
Okay, so when we talk about regime change operations, and of course Donald Trump turning around and saying this, very simply, if Iran is going to kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. This is Israel once again taking part in this, and of course they've got flamethrowers. They've got Kalashnikovs, and of course, they've got all sorts of naughty toys in Iran. For instance, shotguns. Now, lots and lots of these people, should we say mercs and everybody else, and people that were trying to overthrow the government, and we warned about this ages ago, that they were going to go in through the Zangezur corridor, which is between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and is at the top on the north of Iran, and they were going to send insurgents in there along with NGOs to try and overthrow the government of Iran. It wants Iran gone, and it will stop at nothing to try and do that. And have a little look at this. This is what the Jaish al-Adi did. And we'll come back to the Jaish al-Adi, but this is an Iranian Lieutenant General.
برای انتقام خون معترضان ایران و مردم غیور و نور و ملکشاهی و همه مردم ایران انشالله.
So that is members of the Jaish al-Adi. And what have they got to do with the price of chips? Have a look at this. You have to ask, were they left behind on purpose, of course, so that they could then sell them on? Because those weapons have now ended up, as I say, those weapons have now ended up being used in Iran to try and overthrow the government that is there at the moment. And of course, as I say, you're going to see more and more of this coming. It's not going to stop. And of course, they're coming at them. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been out and talking as well about Venezuela.
You've been very critical of Trump's attack on Venezuela, calling it a betrayal of MAGA. What are you hearing from America First voters and constituents that you talk to about what's happening in Venezuela?
It's been striking to me to see the confusion, people trying to figure out where they're supposed to land, and supposed is a key word there, supposed to land on that issue. Here's what I have to say. I served on Homeland for 3 years. And drugs killing Americans is a serious issue. Fentanyl overdose deaths in my district skyrocketed by 280%. But fentanyl was coming across the Mexico border, and that comes from Chinese chemical precursors. It wasn't Venezuela that we were ever talking about. Yeah. So I pushed back on the reason given is that we're taking down Maduro because he's killing Americans with drugs. Venezuela is not even in the top 10 when it comes to drugs being imported in the U.S. So you can't hold Maduro accountable and not hold Mexican cartels accountable, who are number one. So that doesn't work for me. Number two, we campaigned, and I went to countless Trump rallies and stood on the stage with the president and stood on the stage with other Republican candidates and said, America first, no more regime change, no more foreign wars, no more foreign intervention, enough of this. That's what America first means. and militarily invading a country, killing people in the process, arresting their leader and taking them out, and then claiming this is for the Venezuelan people and saying all the charges are about drugs, but then turning around and literally every single statement is about Venezuelan oil and how it belongs to America, which I don't quite understand that. I believe it belongs to Venezuela. It's not working. And that entire narrative is not working for most people who are saying, wait a minute, I thought MAGA was America first. I thought we voted to put the American people first. And that's where I stand.
There we are. So that's Marjorie Taylor Greene with her take on it. And of course, we're going to see more and more of this narrative starting to unfold. Because of course, many people now are turning around and going, that can't be right, can it? That we're going into Venezuela, how much oil is actually in there and everything else. And of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene, not happy. The Chinese are not happy. Min Ying, let's have a listen to what she had to say.
美方在公海海域随意扣押他国船只，严重违反国际法。中方一贯反对缺乏国际法依据、未经联合国安理会授权的非法单边制裁。 反对任何违反联合国宪章宗旨和原则、侵犯别国主权、安全的行为。
So, of course, we're also talking about the seizure of tankers, but we have a big problem in that that's not just the tanker that was seized, and we turned around and told you that the tanker that they seized, the Mariana, was completely empty. And many people were saying, oh no, it's got 2 million barrels of oil and everything else. America's going to seize this Venezuelan oil. It's all going to be theirs. We were completely right. The tanker was completely and utterly empty. There was no oil in there whatsoever. Eric.
Yes, and I found out today, for the people out there who don't know, a shadow fleet, all it means is they're not insured by the Lloyd's of London. That's it.
Absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And something else that's going to be really, really embarrassing. Now, of course, is we're talking about the tanker, of course, that was seized. Can you guess? I'm going to give you a chance here. There's 33 nationals there. Can you guess how many? Who those nationals were? How many people from various? Yes, Karas has got that right. Amusingly, most of the 33 and over half the 33 of the people that are working on that tanker are Ukrainians. There are 3 Russians. There are 17 Ukrainians on board that tanker. So, of course, once again, this is going to be quite embarrassing. The thing that is really going to be embarrassing is Britain have hit another tanker called the Erebus. They have got a drone to slam into the tanker. The tanker is not sinking, but it did cause a fire on it. So Britain are escalating this. And there's no question that Great Britain are escalating really, really badly here. And this is going to get worse. The piracy on the high seas is not going to stop in any way, shape or form. It's going to keep going. They're going to keep at it. And in fact, we're going to show you a little something from this. And of course, the UK at it again. Once again, they had this plane flying over the Black Sea. Before it happened, a Boeing RC-135. So anybody who's turning around and saying that the UK are going to sort of slow down on this, the UK are actually accelerating this, would you believe? Let's have a look at this. Now, the British and the Americans were practicing boarding this tanker for a week before they did so. And anybody thinking that, of course, we were not going to be part and parcel of this, or we were not in there, is talking absolute nonsense. It really is. And of course, this is only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. And of course, we're going to see more of this going on. They're going to keep coming for them. They're going to keep attacking. And of course, it's going to end up only in one way. And we've already got our answer from Maria Zakharova, who, of course, has turned around and said this. She has turned around and said that jumping onto tankers that are being covered by us, whether it's under a flag of convenience or not, this is part of, they are flying under the sovereign flag of Russia. Our tankers keep being hit. You have promoted neo-Nazis into the Ukrainian government. This is not anything, this is no one that wants peace here. And as far as we are concerned, any peace negotiations or the peace deal that has been thrashed out in Paris will be unacceptable to us. Now, we warned this was coming. Did they really think they could keep going? This bunch of idiots could come out with this so-called peace summit, which is nothing more than a complete bunch of nonsense, and then present this to the Russians whilst they have been doing this to the Russians. And of course, the Russians have turned around and said that they're not going to have anything to do with it. And of course, the nonsense about soldiers, Maria Zakharova once again has turned around and said, when it comes to, first of all, there will be no peace deal, there will be no ceasefire. And if you want to put obviously NATO peacekeepers in Russia, her words exactly for her, exactly expressing her, and remember that she's a spokeswoman, don't even try it. So that should tell you everything you need to know. Something that isn't well known, and we're going to talk about this now, Polish soldiers. There are about 20,000 Polish soldiers that have been rotated in and out of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, sometimes to get some battlefield experience. Lots of people talked about the North Koreans. Nobody's ever talked about the Polish soldiers. Well, we can tell you and tell you exclusively now that these soldiers have been, and Poland has been keeping this very, very quiet, but we now have this from our source in Poland, who's been telling us about this, that slowly but surely it is starting to leak out that over 3,500 Polish soldiers, these are active Polish soldiers, suddenly taking time off and work for paramilitary companies, have been returned dead to Poland. We're talking 3,500 serving Polish soldiers. Nobody wants to talk about it, but we do. So we are absolutely certain of our facts. We have this from somebody inside one of the Polish ministries who has to deal with these coming back. By the way, just while we're on the subject of foreign soldiers in other countries, let's have a little look at this, because the British and the French are the only two that are going to put soldiers in. Even Merz, with all his talk, all his bluster, all his nonsense, is not putting soldiers into Ukraine. The only two countries that are going to put soldiers into Ukraine are Britain and, of course, should we say, the French. And, of course, no more than 7,500 from each. Robert.
Apologies arriving late.
That's
but
okay.
I've just caught up with the tankers. I understand the Russians have seized several vessels owned by American companies.
I don't know about that yet. If I do know, Robert, then
I'll send you a link. I've seen several references to it. I'll send them over.
Okay, I'll definitely have a look at it. But I've not heard.
Apologies, I didn't mean to embarrass you.
No, that's okay. Never embarrassing. Always on the thirst for knowledge. What the Russians have done is smash the port of Odessa again. There are reports that apparently they've killed NATO people. They're totally unconfirmed. I've not heard anything from anybody else. But just to let you know, those reports of that sort of thing are circulating out there. I've certainly not heard anything, and I would always wait for extra confirmation before making that claim. Kavoy Rog was definitely hit, the home of Zelensky, not his actual home.
Ooh, ебать! Сейчас буде бабах.
A couple of massive explosions in Kavoy Rog, not Zelensky's home, I would stress. It is, in actual fact, near, it is the place where Zelensky comes from. There is more and more of this going on, and of course, it's going terribly badly. I have to, while we're actually talking about this, I have to give a big up to Ukrainian women who've managed to chase off the TCC recruitment. Have a look at this. This is the Ukrainian women making sure that the recruitment snatchers or the press gangers can't get into their village. Amazing what a few women with a Dachshund and a few pitchforks can actually achieve. Ukrainian men toughen up here because if they can chase them off, you sure as hell can. We're going to show you a little something as well. This is AI, but Rybar have put together a rather good reason why of exactly, or shall we say, an animated version of why armored columns are so now unsuccessful on the front line. Have a little look at this. So there we go. That's why armored columns get absolutely pasted. And we've shown you on a few occasions these armored columns that have been smashed to pieces. And of course, many of these are smashed to pieces with artillery. Now, when it comes to artillery and to long-range rockets and, shall we say, artillery pieces, nobody's better at designing these, oddly enough, than the people that they say are incredibly backward in North Korea. Let's have a little look, shall we, at the precision factories, and there are 47 of these, banging out hypersonic rockets and artillery pieces. to say a very big thank you to Lang for the access to those photographs. And of course, as I say, you're going to get more and more of this going their way. General Flynn's been out and saying some stuff when it comes to Greenland. Let's have a look.
If you could just keep that up there for your audience, because I think that is probably the one that shows I would call it vital terrain, right? Vital terrain in the world of geopolitics. Those straits through those operational water lanes there, the waterways are very critical. So, one thing, quickly is that Russia is not Venezuela. Russia is a nuclear-armed powerhouse, that is not going to allow itself to be, quote unquote, pushed around like we're able to do with Venezuela, because Venezuela is a much smaller and much less capable nation. Russia, I understand elements of the Duma, which is essentially their Congress, have already come out with very strong statements in support of military responses by Russia. For the people that don't, pay real close attention to this, those vital waterways, that is the only real strategic lane or set of lanes for the Russian Navy, particularly with their nuclear submarine fleet, to be able to exit the northern Baltic Sea.
And that is where the next big piece of trouble is coming. Now, we understand that over the next week, we are going to see a massive Russian response. Now, we don't know exactly when that's going to be, but we have been told by people that we know and that we trust that that is coming. And of course, we're talking, it may well end up, we have American and NATO bases all over, shall we say, Europe. We've got Belgium, and then, of course, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Estonia, Germany, Greece, Iceland, Italy, Kosovo, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Spain, Turkey, and the United Kingdom, where, of course, we have American bases. And we are being told that if the current situation carries on, the Russians are not frightened of escalating. Now, I hope to God that's not true, because if they do escalate to that point, then we're going to be in trouble. And, of course, we've still got the nonsense coming out from Starmer, of course, who is wanting your children to literally go and fight for the UK. Now, as we said before, he's going to try and put 7,500 peacekeeping troops in when or if there's a ceasefire. That is simply not going to happen, okay? For the simple fact that there is going to be no ceasefire. The Russians have already, because of the actions of, shall we say, the idiots out there, while they've been trying to negotiate a peace deal, they've been doing all sorts of things. The Russians have already turned around and said it's a non-starter, as is this nonsense from the Express. Most Brits support sending troops to Ukraine with peace plan 95% done. Now, there are two massive lies there from the Daily Express. Most Brits support sending troops to Ukraine. No, they don't. It's 3-1 against. 75% of British people do not want British troops going to Ukraine. And with a peace plan, 95% done. Yeah, your idea of a peace plan, it's 0% done when it comes to the Russians as far as they're concerned. I'm reminded of something George Orwell once said when he made this comment. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. In other words, you're free to think what we tell you. And of course, you must ignore absolutely everything else. And we're just not going to do that, because it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And while we're talking about worse and worse and worse, Saudi Arabia and Yemen. Let's have a look.
جوين جوين
the moment, Saudis and the UAE are smashing each other to bits in the areas controlled in Yemen. And of course, the Yemenis are just sitting back and watching the fire show at the moment. And they're not really getting involved in it at all themselves, because while they're pounding each other, the Saudis are not firing 2 rockets a day into Yemen. I'm going to play you a little bit now of Brian Belletti, because he has been saying lots and lots of things that have come true. And of course, many, many people turn around. Some people do like Brian Belletti, some don't. But of course, the US media has, of course, turned around and said, no, it had nothing to do with it. The CIA, everybody's been coming out and saying, we've had nothing to do with attacking Russia. We've always said that they do. And of course, Brian Belletti has always consistently come out. He is a guy that's worth following because he consistently calls out America for what they're doing. And he's got some contacts that are pretty good. And he's accurate most of the time.
The U.S. launched a war of aggression against Venezuela. So, I mean, everything that I predicted about the Trump administration continuing on with all the neoconservative wars that President Bush, Obama, and Biden were picking up and carrying on with as each took their turn in office, everything that I warned about has now unfortunately come to pass. And I'm going to read this article, which is about the U.S. dirty war against Russia and revelations from the Western media itself, U.S.-based media itself, that the U.S. is essentially attacking Russia itself, and it's simply doing it under the cover of assisting Ukraine. They're attacking Russia, and they're specifically attacking Russian energy production, oil, essentially. And the U.S. last year attacked Iran, another major oil producer, and now they have just attacked Venezuela, another energy producer. And what do they all have in common? They're exporting primarily to China. And that's what this is all about. And I'm going to get to all of that in this article. Now that we know that the U.S. is pursuing regime change in Venezuela, has launched a war for regime change in Venezuela, just add that to everything that is in this article, and you will see how it's probably much worse than I'm even depicting. So while the United States government poses as pursuing peace with Russia regarding the ongoing war in Ukraine, it is now admitted that the U.S. is overseeing a supercharged campaign targeting Russian oil facilities and tankers aimed at crippling Russia's economy and its fighting capacity. It goes far beyond just targeting Russia and trying to somehow win the war in Ukraine. It goes far beyond that because in reality, they know they're not going to win the war in Ukraine. As I pointed out many times in the past, the Rand Corporation's paper extending Russia admits that any war the U.S. is able to provoke inside of Ukraine with Russia is almost certainly going to end in Ukraine collapsing and losing. They knew that. They know that's what's going to happen. So they're not trying to win the war in Ukraine. They're trying to use Ukraine to cripple and degrade Russian energy production as much as possible ahead of a much larger, more dangerous, equally unnecessary war with China in the near future. The revelation should come as no surprise. The campaign of long-range aerial drone strikes conducted deep inside Russian territory, as well as maritime drone strikes taking place both within the Black Sea and far beyond it, including in the Mediterranean Sea and off the coast of West Africa, requires intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities, ISR for short. Only the U.S. possesses. Only the U.S. has the capability to carry out these strikes. When they were taking place, I told people, only the U.S. can do this. It is the U.S. doing this. And they're simply laundering it politically through their Ukrainian proxies. It was obvious, and now the New York Times admits it. Not only has the U.S. made essential ISR available for these attacks, but both the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and at least the U.S. Navy have been implicated in assisting directly in these attacks. Of course they have. A New York Times article from early 2025, so this is an earlier article that I've referenced many times, The Partnership, this article here. This article right here, The Partnership, The Secret History of the War in Ukraine. This is the untold story of America's hidden role in Ukrainian military operations against Russia's invading armies. But of course, again, as I pointed out many times in the past, and again, as the Rand Corporation itself admits in the 2019 Extending Russia Competing from Advantageous Ground paper, they knew their options here, especially this one, provide lethal aid to Ukraine, would provoke a war with Russia. They knew it, and they did it anyway. And by the way, they did that under the first Trump administration. So while President Trump often refers to the war in Ukraine as Biden's war, I mean, he's equally responsible for precipitating it and now escalating it. He shares equal ownership with the Bush, Obama, and Biden administrations. If you really look at it over this whole course of the 21st century, has been working its way up towards that. So this article, The Partnership, The Secret History of the War in Ukraine, would admit in regards to repeated maritime drone strikes carried out across the Black Sea. So the New York Times is talking about maritime drone strikes across the Black Sea. This is what it said. The Biden administration had authorized helping the Ukrainians develop, manufacture, and deploy a nascent fleet of maritime drones to attack Russia's Black Sea fleet. So the Ukrainians didn't come up with any of this. The Americans created it and gave it to them, and then helped them use them to carry out these strikes if they weren't overseeing the whole operation themselves to begin with. And then it says in parentheses, the Americans gave the Ukrainians an early prototype meant to counter a Chinese naval assault on Taiwan, and also to strike at Chinese maritime shipping, which is something they are still preparing to do. And I will talk about that later in this article. First, the Navy was allowed to share points of interest for Russian warships just beyond Crimea's territorial waters, talking about the U.S. Navy doing that. In October, with leeway to act within Crimea itself, the CIA covertly started supporting drone strikes on the port of Sevastopol. If Ukraine was incapable of conducting their own maritime drone strikes along the coast of Crimea, it most certainly would not have been able to conduct strikes much further abroad, meaning that the more recent strikes carried out far beyond the Black Sea almost certainly required as much or more direct U.S. involvement. And again, this all happened under the Trump administration. And another more recent New York Times article admits that President Trump approved of all of this. He was aware of it, and he approved of all of it. So he picked up right where Biden left off, and he continued, just like I said he would. This has now been confirmed by a more recent New York Times article. This article, The Separation Inside the Unraveling U.S.-Ukraine Partnership. Despite the title, there is no unraveling of the U.S.-Ukraine partnership. Okay, there is none. They admit that the U.S. is just running the entire war through Ukraine. So what partnership? Titled The Separation Inside the Unraveling U.S.-Ukraine Partnership, the article at first attempts to portray the administration of current U.S. President Donald Trump as undermining Ukraine amid continued conflict with Russia. But the article then admits that just beneath the facade of peace negotiations, the U.S. has actually escalated what has always been a U.S.-instigated and U.S.-led proxy war against Russia fought merely through Ukraine. The article admits, and this is a direct quote, even as Mr. Trump bullied Mr. Zelensky, he seemed to coddle Mr. Putin. When the Russian stiff-armed peace proposals and accelerated bombing campaigns on Ukrainian cities, Mr. Trump would lash out on Truth Social and ask his aides, do we sanction their banks or do we sanction their energy infrastructure? For months, he did neither. But in secret, the Central Intelligence Agency and the U.S. military, with his blessing, supercharge a Ukrainian campaign of drone strikes on Russian oil facilities and tankers to hobble Mr. Putin's war machine. So the U.S. is striking Russia secretly. The CIA is doing this under the guise of Ukraine doing this. And this is what the Trump administration was actually doing while it was lying about wanting peace with Russia.
And of course, you can see Brian Beletic's pod on YouTube. So do go and give him a follow because he's worth a look. As I say, he's very, very good. And if you think he's wrong, just ask yourself this question. And both Brian and myself have been going on about this over and over again. You're talking attacking. There's a new sanctions package with Lindsey Graham. The EU are getting another sanctions package together. Witkoff and Kushner are going and talking to the EU as well as Zelensky with the economic packages that they're looking then to freeze so that they can get all the minerals in the ground, whilst they're trying to cut Russia's oil off and cut off revenue. And of course, launching attack drones at Zelensky's presidential palace. And of course, you've had literally Christopher Freeland and of course, Budanov moved into the corridors of power alongside Zelensky. So you've got the demilitarization, which is not going to happen because they're talking about putting troops in and building up Ukraine's army tenfold from what it originally was before the SMO started. The denazification is not happening. If anything, it's intensifying around Zelensky, with Budanov, obviously, and getting Zelensky ready to take over from Zelensky if he doesn't play ball, and Krista Freeland going in as well. Given her past, we all know what that is. So that's the demilitarization and the denazification, and of course the no to NATO. But they're talking about putting troops in there. But of course, the peace deal won't be happening because the Americans have turned around and said, of course, that they will not be giving security guarantees. So of course, everybody else putting troops into Ukraine is a non-starter. And the only reason they want to do that is they just want to keep NATO buying the weapons from them, the rest of Europe buying weapons from them. Their energy and everything else is going through the floor. And while they're paying top dollar for it from America, America have no reason to cease what is going on because they're not direct. They can make out they are not directly involved whilst doing the operations from obviously a good long distance away. So anybody thinks for one moment that everything's going to be absolutely hunky-dory, you've only got to listen to Lindsey Graham. And of course, Lindsey Graham is backing a brand new sanctions package that has been given the green light. And of course, he's all over social media telling everybody how great the administration is because they're doing exactly what he wants.
Donald J. Trump is not Barack Obama. He has your back. And to the Ayatollahs, you need to understand, if you keep killing your people who are demanding a better life, Donald J. Trump is going to kill you. Change is coming to Iran. It'll be the biggest change in the history of the Mideast to get rid of this Nazi regime. To the people of Iran, help is on the way.
And of course, this is all complete nonsense because, of course, we've shown you exactly who is behind the riots in Iran. And if Iran have got any sense, and they really do need to be awake here, if Iran have got any sense whatsoever, then they very simply ban any NGOs in their country whatsoever. And while we're talking about how all this works out, let's have a little look at this. This is Jeremy Corbyn having a bit of a, shall we say, bit of a to-do here.
Now, if the US was serious about dealing with human rights abuses, which they are not, they're not anywhere in the world.
Yeah, but are you? That's my point.
Of course I am.
Well, you have to. Well, why don't you say categorically he was a pretty evil
dictator? You seem to be trying to move this whole conversation away from the reality of what Trump has done. Invaded another country.
If you answer the question, if you condemn him, I'll move on.
So there we go. That is Sky, who are owned obviously by Israel left, right and centre through one proxy or another, saying that if you condemn Iran, we'll move on to something else. If you condemn Maduro, we'll move on to something else. Refusing to move on with any question until you do what we tell you to do, which is condemn. It is quite incredible that people would think that's all right. And Max Blumenthal here also having a bit of a go.
And just quickly to respond to Virtual Ambassador Story, who accused me of ad hominem attacks. You are a government official. You are a veteran coup plotter, and it is legitimate for a journalist to scrutinize the activities of a coup plotting government official who in February 2021 hosted a insurrectionist summit at the Marriott Hotel in Bogota. You, with Leopoldo Lopez, the U.S.-backed coup leader who staged multiple failed military coups and led violent riots that saw Afro-Venezuelan citizens burned in the streets. Check out Orlando Figuera. And Carlos Vecchio, the fake ambassador to Venezuela, who is actually the lawyer for ExxonMobil, which seeks to regain its control of Venezuelan fields. This is one of the most deeply anti-democratic opposition movements led by Maria Corina Machado, who has led several coup attempts in Venezuela and said Nicolas Maduro is a bad actor sitting on the world's largest oil reserves. Well, that's why you consider him a bad actor, because there's plenty of bad actors in the world, and neither of you will condemn ICC wanted war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu or call for his arrest, will you? Neither of you will talk about Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa's role in the international drug trade through Benita.
So there we go. That was, of course, Max Blumenthal from the Grey Zone having a go as well. And of course, we have to talk about this as well. Have a listen to this.
regards to the cocaine, President Trump knows, I mean, to make our economy great, we have to be safe in our country. And these narco terrorists, which is what they are, they were importing hundreds of tons of cocaine into our country, killing our kids, killing countless thousands of Americans every single year. And Larry, you know, don't forget the Maduro emptied his prisons, he emptied insane asylums, and let those people come into our country during the last administration, and President Trump stopped it. Now he is sitting in the Southern District of New York, where he and his wife, Celia Maduro, will be held accountable for their crimes. This isn't just a drug dealer. You know, he's a monster. He's a narco terrorist, and she's also charged with 3 of the counts. Larry, they supplied these drug dealers with machine guns, with grenades, with everything to further their cocaine conspiracy and what they were doing around our country. They put hits on people, murders, kidnappings, assaults, anything on anyone who stood in their way.
Now, let's be absolutely straight here. This is a woman who was able to get all sorts of charges and find all this out because, of course, as you know, we showed you that they were being fed this information by the actual cartels that work in Venezuela and, of course, by the Rodriguez sister and brother team who were getting together with the CIA to fund her with, or furnish her with all this information of how this sort of thing works, but of course that Maduro wasn't any part of, and this, of course, is going to be the narrative that finds her guilty, that finds them both guilty, and this is this is a kangaroo court. There is no such thing here as Maduro being found not guilty, not even a 0.1% chance, because imagine what would happen if he is found not guilty. It's simply not going to happen. The American administration are not going to allow that to happen. And of course, when we're talking about Pam Bondi, she can get all this done, but she can't charge anybody whatsoever who is on the Epstein list. Quite incredible, of course, when they go on about that. This is the latest thing that we've got. Protests are starting all over the place.
Stop supporting ISIS crimes! No more! City Council cut the ties! Stay hard
Now, so far, it hasn't got to epidemic levels, but from what I am hearing, I had an email while we've been in the middle of the show that says that there are various NGOs by Soros that are going to be used to try and literally blow America apart, rather like the riots that they had a long while back, if you remember, with the George Floyd riots. And very shortly, we're going to be showing you that whole video of what went on with George Floyd. So hopefully you can stay with us for that. We're going to have a little look at a couple of other things as well. Let's have a little look at this. 700,000 being spent for turnstiles to stop fare dodgers. Let's see how that works.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family of 4.
How to dodge the fares. Does seem quite incredible, doesn't it? As soon as you've got it open, you can keep it open by doing that. In China, they have a wonderful way of teaching kids about static. No LGBTQ there, just a lot of fun. And we come to this. This is quite staggering. I've got to give this guy his props. Have a look at this.
Hang on, baby! Hang on! Hang on! Oh, oh, oh,
Good boy. Good boy.
There we go. Well done. Very simply, thank you very much for watching. We are going to be leaving anybody but the subscribers in a second, and thank you for watching the show. I hope you've enjoyed it. But the next section is for subscribers only.